Greetings, Israel. This is titled Plagues of Egypt, More Interesting Signs in 2019. So we're going to cover a few events that have occurred in 2019. Now, take note that the European powers have been pushing this idea of global warming, and they renamed it to climate change, as if climate does not change. I mean, that's called seasons, right? But they act like it's unnatural. But in this case, some of these events are unnatural because the use of climate change is to hide Yah's judgment from the world so that they can blame it on this theory called climate change. Okay. And one other interesting note is this Senate bill that they passed to oppose the boycotting of the nation of Israel. So the House passes a resolution condemning global boycott targeting Israel. So how do you know the people that control the world or who is in power? You can identify them by the fact that you cannot talk about them or oppose them. So in this case, you're not allowed to boycott Israel for the way they treat the Palestinians. A lot of the Palestinians are getting shot just for target practice. I saw a video where a Israeli soldier just shot this kid on the roof for no reason, just for fun. But even these events are prophetic. But for now, let's look at some events that have been occurring in 2019. It's been pretty interesting, pretty mind-boggling in some cases, the things that have been occurring since 2019, the final year of our captivity, according to Scripture. The end of our 400 years is in this month of August. Lord willing, we'll see some major signs that allow us to be prepared to leave. But if not, we keep waiting on the Most High. It's according to His timing. But let's take a look. Now, some of you may be aware of this event, but this occurred earlier in 2019. And it's very disturbing, actually. So this zombie deer disease has the potential to move to humans. What is it? And where did it come from? Doesn't seem natural. I would personally suspect that this disease was made in a lab, but hey, that's just my theory. But it's dangerous, it's deadly, and it creates true zombies. What did the movie industry know that we didn't know? We don't know. Let's move on to the next video.
Florida health officials are warning of an uptick in mosquitoborne virus that causes brain swelling in humans. The virus is known as Eastern Equine Encephalitis, or EEE. Several chickens in Orange County tested positive for this illness. It spreads to humans through bites from infected mosquitoes. The virus can cause brain infection and swelling, and 30% of people who contract it die. Only about 7 cases of the virus in humans are reported to the CDC each year, but following the positive tests in chickens, the health department says the risk of transmission to humans has increased. Katie Johnston, CBSMiami.com.
So not only do we have zombie diseases, we have mosquito-borne viruses that cause brain swelling in humans. Why now? Why 2019? These type of things never occurred in the past. Okay, these are signs of the end. So here we have swarms of locusts covering the skies of Russia. And as many of you have heard, there's a plague of locusts in Las Vegas. Now, some say that they are drawn to the lights of Las Vegas, which may be partially true, but the quantity of locusts at this time is still a prophetic sign.
$3000 банка.
Could Pharaoh have dealt with anything worse than what we see here? And as you saw at the intro of this video, this phenomenon is worldwide, not just Russia. There were incidents in Saudi Arabia, as I mentioned, incidents in Las Vegas. You put it all together, and it is most likely Yah's plagues on the nations. So the nations need to ask themselves, what have they done to offend the Father? Because we've been telling you, you have persecuted his people. And Job 3 is the end result of that, is the Gentile nations facing off against the Most High for what they have done to his people. I have seen that some Gentiles are actually starting to acknowledge this, and some are actually seem to be repentful. But true repentance means you should be trying to make things right. So here we have a woman contracts flesh-eating bacteria in Florida.
The latest victim of flesh-eating bacteria contracted on a nearby beach. The 34-year-old remains hospitalized after a small part of her foot had to be removed. 8 on Your Side's Melanie Michaels spoke with her earlier today. Mel, what a story.
It certainly is, Jen. Good evening to you. You know, that woman is issuing a warning tonight for anyone who enjoys our Bay Area beaches to be careful. Leanne Thibodeau never thought it would happen to her. A flesh-eating bacteria found in her foot. But Leanne tells us she spent her 4th of July holiday in a hospital after visiting what she calls her favorite place in the world, the beach. Leanne says she wanted to try a new spot, so she visited Minnesota Beach, just south of Venice, for the first time. She never thought this tiny hole from a cut would be a problem. In fact, it had a scab on it and was already healing before she ever got in the water. But that's all it took. Within days, her foot was so swollen and in so much pain, she couldn't walk. She says doctors at Port Charlotte's Bayfront Health diagnosed her as having flesh-eating bacteria, also known as necrotizing fasciitis. They quickly performed surgery to remove part of her foot. She issued this warning to people, saying in part, "Be careful, my friends. I had a scab on my foot. Didn't think anything of it. It became infected and swollen. I joked about it for 3 days. Guess you shouldn't joke." So with that being said, I'm warning all my friends from Sarasota to Port Charlotte, be careful.
So what's going on with the flesh-eating bacteria and the brain destroying viruses and zombie causing viruses? What's going on? All of this in 2019. These are the type of questions we need to ask ourselves. What is going on and why is it happening? This phenomenon is huge, and it doesn't seem to be going away. So we also have rats in California. Now, California is well known for violating the rights of the true Hebrew Israelites, very abusive and extremely hostile, more so than many states in the United States. But let's see what this man has to say.
We haven't seen any rats where we are, thank God. Rats have been known to run rampant. In some parts of downtown LA, they've even been known to scamper about City Hall just over my shoulder. Well, grassroots taxpayer advocacy group, Reform California, conducting a study finding that the problem is not only central to downtown LA, it's a statewide crisis.
We see state and local government officials in California clearly either ignorant to a burgeoning public health crisis or negligent in refusing to act to respond to that public health crisis. That public health crisis involves the very uncomfortable topic of rats.
Carl DeMeo, chairman of Reform California, releasing a study his organization conducted claiming the state is facing an explosion in the rodent population plaguing areas like downtown LA. The report highlighting this is causing a spike in dangerous diseases such as typhus. DeMeo saying the study was conducted by health experts and vector and pest control professionals.
California is experiencing a massive spike in its rodent population that started being detected 2 years ago, but has accelerated, particularly in the last 12 months.
The report claims the continuing growth in the homeless population is one reason for the rodent infestation. The report also points fingers at state and local government officials contributing to the problem.
Many local governments, including Los Angeles, have banned the most effective practices for detecting and eradicating rats. When you ban the most effective tools for eradicating rats, why are you surprised when there's a spike in the population? In 2 weeks, the Senate Committee on Appropriations will take up Assembly Bill 1788.
1788 is the California Ecosystems Protection Act championed by Assemblyman Richard Bloom of Santa Monica. It would ban most anticoagulant rodicides. A study conducted by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, the National Park Service, and scientists found that rodicides are having a major impact on wildlife, even pets. The mountain lion population is especially at risk.
Testing has shown that nearly every mountain lion has rat poison in their system. There are many other top-level predators and wildlife that have been poisoned and killed, and across the state, many cases where pets have been poisoned after ingesting these chemicals. Anticoagulant rodenticides cause animals to bleed out internally, and this also disrupts their immune system's natural ability to fight off infections.
Again, Reform California wanting the governor to declare a health emergency to deal with what the group says is a rodent infestation plaguing the state.
So if you notice, this man indicated that it is a statewide problem. Interesting that they want to blame the homeless for this. I mean, that's just insane. But hey, you know, that's how things are done. Disinformation, misinformation, to explain away the judgment of the Most High. And here we have algae bloom in Lake Erie.
Scientists say here in Lake Erie, algae blooms are primarily caused by agricultural runoff, including phosphorus. Cyanobacteria, or blue-green algae, then produce a green scum, and in some cases, a toxin.
The toxin itself can be a danger to swimmers or to pets, to dogs. And also it requires extra effort in treating the water to make sure the toxin's removed from drinking water. All the plants in around Lake Erie do a great job of that.
We've come to a point now where it's not a question of if there will be an algae bloom. We know there will be an algae bloom. Now the question is how bad or how big it's going to be.
Crystal M.C. Davis is the policy director at the Alliance for the Great Lakes. She says scientists are predicting a worse algae bloom than in immediate years past, due in part to heavy rainfall. She's hopeful Ohio lawmakers can make some changes with money in the state budget for the H2 Ohio plan.
Lawmakers still have time to put some accountability metrics in place so that the folks who get those funds know that they are being held accountable for clean water outcomes associated with that funding.
So Lake Erie has an algae bloom, but this algae bloom doesn't just occur up north. It is happening down south and is a nationwide issue, possibly even worldwide. For example, you can see in this video that also the Gulf Coast, the southern part of the United States, has an algae bloom problem as well.
21 beaches are closed to swimmers. People and pets are warned to stay out of the water. That's not good in 85-degree weather. Manuel Bojorquez is on the coast in Biloxi, Mississippi, with more on the story. And I guess, Manny, the question is, how bad is it?
Well, here's the thing. You can still enjoy these sandy beaches, but officials are cautioning against what many people come here to do, and that, of course, is to swim in the water. They're also urging people to not eat the local seafood until the outbreak is over, and all of this is already starting to have an impact on the economy here. The calm beaches along the Gulf Coast are practically empty because of a toxic algae.
We're scared, actually. So we're staying here in the pool.
We were headed here to kind of like stick our toes in the water.
But even getting your toes or his toes in the water is kind of not going to happen.
Off limits now.
The problem started up the Mississippi River, where heavy rains caused flooding this spring. Officials were forced to open a spillway to relieve the pressure on levees. The surge of fresh water, which also carried agricultural runoff like fertilizer from farms, causes the algae to thrive. The algae blooms can trigger health problems like rashes, stomach cramps, nausea, diarrhea, and vomiting. Scientists are busy testing water samples, but Allison Robertson of the Dauphin Island Sea Lab says the advisory is precautionary.
There's a very, very low chance of any kind of human health effects associated with being in the water.
Some visitors aren't convinced of the dangers.
Are we going out mouth deep or chin deep or anything like that? No, we'll go out here and we'll wade in it, go around, no issues.
But many vacationers have canceled their plans. That's not helping business owners like Barney Foster, who's expecting a busy summer season.
I bought 28 brand new jet skis, and the month of July was supposed to pretty much pay the notes off. And that's not going to happen now.
So in these waters, we're not only talking about algae bloom, but these same waters is the same area that's having the flesh-eating bacteria. So the area that we once went to for relaxation has now turned into a danger, and it could be life-threatening. You have to ask yourself, well, why is that? Why is all these things happening right now? In 2019, at the end of our 400-year captivity. We know why, but do the Gentiles understand?
In California, where the governor is asking
now,
the White House
many of us,
the largest earthquake in Southern California.
Now, many of us have heard about the earthquake in California. Hasn't been this strong in 20 years, and there's risk of a major one, the big one, happening in some near future. So they used to talk about New Orleans being a big water bowl, where it was gonna, when the great hurricane would come and fill up the water bowl and flood New Orleans, right? And it didn't take long for that prophecy to happen. So they've been prophesying this great earthquake in California as well. So what's the chances of that happening within the next few years?
California in 20 years. Meanwhile, people on the ground there bracing for more aftershocks and the possibility of an even larger quake. ABC's Marcus Moore right there in Ridgecrest. Marcus, good morning to you.
Dan, good morning. It seemed to be a quieter night in terms of the aftershocks that you could actually feel, but there were some strong jolts overnight as residents here begin to recover. And as you can see behind me, some have to start all over. California on edge overnight as residents try to recover from back-to-back violent earthquakes.
Get under the table, get under the table. Oh my God.
While still bracing for aftershocks.
I was screaming for my husband. It was pretty scary with all the water coming out.
The shaking so severe, watch this woman struggle to get up.
I used to see this in the movies, people falling down. I think, oh, this is corny. It's real.
Thousands evacuating in the wake of the 7.1 magnitude quake that rocked Southern California, leaving thousands without power and many homes in shambles.
I wouldn't care if I didn't have to go back in that house ever again. That's how intense it was.
It's just not safe for us to go home, so at this point I'm just homeless.
I toured one family's home in Trona. Their belongings scattered and broken on the floor, picture frames hanging sideways, and air vents hanging from the ceiling.
Look at that crack. And they were telling me that the doors couldn't hardly open and they had to kind of pry their way in. Could you stand?
I couldn't hardly stand.
Could barely stand.
I could barely stand.
Others recovering from fires that broke out as a result of the earthquake. One witness recounting the horror.
The windows started cracking and flames started shooting out, and I just backed up because I wasn't sure if it was gonna blow up.
After two major quakes in less than 48 hours that shook pools, ravaged stores, and split roads apart, California's governor is calling on residents to come together.
We all, I think, have a unique role and responsibility to prepare individually to be prepared for the next earthquake of magnitude even greater than 7.1.
And while it seems that things have calmed down here, residents here are not yet in the clear. Experts say there is still about a 3% chance this area could see a stronger earthquake in the coming days.
So as they indicated, there's a high probability of a bigger earthquake coming in the future. And you have to ask yourself why. Nowhere to run when an earthquake comes. I pray you guys who live out there make preparations of some sort. I wouldn't know what to do in this case, but maybe you guys can figure that out. But be safe. Okay, so we'll end this with a short video about some more locusts in the Red Sea. And we'll call it a day. And if you like what we do, support us at patreon.com/TEOTW.